Call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Excused?
Whitman. Here. Echoangeli.
Here.
Vining.
Here.
Germaini.
Here.
Lamore.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. I'd ask we all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we gather this evening, let us quiet our minds from the activities of the day to focus on the deliberations and decisions that will be made here this evening for the benefit of those who call our community home.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the section where we amend the agenda if necessary.
Any requests from council or administration for amendments to the agenda? Mr. Buds, I think there's a comment on the closed session.
Your Honor, I would, for the closed session items, I'd also ask that we add, if council would so support it, a section C for review of attorney-client privileged communication as well.
Okay, other questions from council? If not, I think we need that motion at this time from council to, as requested by the city attorney. So I need a motion from council. I need a motion from a council member to
I
amend
didn't
the
think you need
agenda.
one. Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we add to the, we amend the agenda to include under closed executive session item C, client privilege communication.
Second. Motion by Councilman Eckelines, supported by Councilman Lamore, to add the item as stated to the, to amend the agenda. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman.
Yes.
Echoangeli.
Yes.
Vining.
Yes.
Germaini.
Yes.
Lamore.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item are citizen comments not related to an agenda item.
Thank you. At this time, there's comments from the citizens not related to an agenda item. Just be mindful of the kind of rules of the chambers and time to make those comments known. And whether I'll start. Yes, ma'am. To the other side, please. Is the microphone here in the county commission building, which we thank them again for allowing us to use this facility while our renovations continue. And please state your name and address, please.
Darlene Dykeman, 222 East 2nd Street, Monroe, Michigan. And looking out at chambers, I feel that I'm done before I've begun. I was hoping that some of the citizens who experienced power outages would be in attendance tonight. 2 neighbors are here, but I don't recognize anyone else's. But I'd much rather not even be here myself. But I feel somebody needs to address the recent power outages that we've experienced, and nobody's doing that. A good portion of the city has had a series of them. In fact, it's a pattern now, 4 times in 4 months. After the second time, I thought surely City Council will have DTE here explaining what was going on, but you didn't. I feel that showed negligence on your part. I feel you should have. You may be thinking that the Public Service Commission is the body to address this, but in my mind, I call them the Utilities Service Commission because they, in my opinion, are owned by the utilities. The governor and the legislature, again, in my opinion, also owned by the utilities. That leaves you folks, and in this respect, you folks belong to us. And once again, I expected you to have brought DTE before council so we could ask questions like, I thought the smart meters that you shoved down everyone's throat pinpointed problems and locations. So why were we told to call the utility to report the outages? I thought they'd already know with their smart meters. Why did the phone apps not provide us any status on what was happening, what caused the outage, or call us back when we left our number? At least they never called me. What exactly caused the problem? How has it been corrected? DTE won't respond to us individually, but I would have thought they'd be willing to respond to you had you bothered to ask. Some might say, what is her problem? It was just an inconvenience. But I don't look at it as just an inconvenience. Each time there's a power outage, that weakens and shortens the life of every appliance in your house. The utility company won't be paying to replace them. They would probably say I'm wrong, but just remember what I said next year when people are replacing your washer, freezer, furnace, or air conditioner. This is more than an inconvenience. And you might wonder, well, what were we supposed to do other than have DTE here? A couple of things bothered me. When the first outage occurred, I called the police because back in the olden times, the police would call in power outages and they would share, if you called them, what information they had, such as the extent or the duration of the outage. When I called, what I got was, call your utility. The most recent power outage for my neighborhood was Tuesday, May 26th. I was walking outside in front of my house when a patrol car pulled into the parking lot across the street from me, as they sometimes do to retrieve things from their personal vehicles. I approached seeking information about the extent and duration of the outage. I was about 20 feet away, my arms were at my sides, apparently I was unarmed. The young man shined his flashlight right into my eyes. It wasn't even dark. Was he filming me? Is this the normal approach now? He responded that he didn't know anything about an outage, wouldn't call to find out, and it was as if he was questioning the existence of an outage that I told him was happening. He pointed out a neighbor had lights on, and I responded that he had a generator. He then pointed out my yard lights. I responded that they were solar, and I turned around and walked away with two thoughts. First, heaven help us, and second, if the police aren't even aware of an outage, there's certainly no extra patrol in the areas affected by the outage. And that means we're completely on our own, and I guess we always are. But with that in mind, plus the fact that you have done nothing, I would like to tell you what I'm prepared to do. With a lot of help, I hope I receive, I would like to put on the ballot for the November election the following proposal. Within the limits of the city of Monroe, when a utility power provider incurs an outage of over 3 hours duration for 3 consecutive months, that utility provider shall be deemed unreliable. If customers who are also property owners within the limits of the city of Monroe purchase generators to provide reliable power, said utility shall reimburse said customer 1/2 of the purchase and installation cost upon providing proof of purchase to said utility. Upon adoption, this ruling will apply retroactively from the period of January 1, 2018, for the purpose of counting outages and purchase of generators. Shall this proposal pass? I think it would. What this means is the more outages, the more generators the utility pays for. It will be the law, and they can't avoid it. It will hold them accountable. It will be the incentive for maintenance and planning that's not taking place now. I was told, not by DTE, that these outages occurred because the East Side substation was unable to adequately provide power due to increased demand. I don't think demand increases overnight. If I'm correct, why was this not planned for? If I'm correct, outages will continue until DTE beefs up the substation. I have a friend in Pennsylvania who's in the utility business, and he said that within the next 3 or 4 years, brownouts will be returning. And at that point, anyone who's lucky enough to have a generator will truly be lucky. But right now, the way things are, we will continue to suffer from outages in Monroe with no repercussions to DTE. Therefore, and it could be any utility, DTE happens to be the one I'm assigned to. Therefore, I'm asking you to step in. I'm asking you, as the City of Monroe, to put this proposal on the November ballot. To that end, I'm asking that you place this proposal on the next council meeting agenda for discussion and vote. We are dealing with a limited time for action. If you decline to act, I will be seeking petition signatures, and I will need a lot of help. Obviously, I can't do it by myself. And I planned on asking people who would be in attendance, I can ask my neighbors, if they will participate in this collection of petition signatures. I hope if this is being filmed and if anyone's watching, I hope that word of mouth will go out so that people will hear what we're trying to do, spread the word about what we're trying to do. I think that it can succeed if there's enough support. And I thank you. I have copies I'll give to the clerk.
We have the copy, so you just a minute for you, thank you.
Well, that's not exactly the correct copy.
Okay, thank you, Darlene. Other comments from those present here this evening, not related to an agenda item? Is there correspondence received that needs to be read, or is that just for the council?
It appears to be, there's the handwritten copy. Darlene, is this similar to what you were discussing?
The handwritten copy should be virtually
Okay.
identical to the
Okay.
typed copy.
It's not. It's not. That's the proposal, what I handed you.
All right. Well, we'll have to adjust that.
We'll make sure that it gets disseminated through to the council, but also the administration.
The wording will have to be changed to be.
If you're gonna speak, you have to get to the microphone and say your name.
I'm sorry. May I?
Yes, please. Not related to an agenda item, now's the time.
No, this is, my name is Frederick
Thank you.
of John Meyer, 211 South Macomb Street, and I'm here to support Darlene with her proposed item. If there are some challenges between the typed copy that I handed and the written copy, we can resolve those, and we would like to work with the council and the city legal team to word things correctly so that we can make an efficient petition that can be effective. And I appreciate the Honorable Mayor Clark and the council's work, and that you gave my neighbor time to voice her opinion.
Thank you, Frederick. We'll make sure that we'll look at the two, the handwritten and the other, and if there's some things we need follow up, we'll get back with both of you.
Thank you
Just
so
make
much.
sure we have the correct one. Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening, not related to an agenda item? Thank you. There may be comments from council following later regarding this topic during the council comment time. I anticipate there will be. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is a public hearing, 2014, public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance number 18-004, an ordinance to amend sections in chapter 699. And we have no comments on file in the clerk's office.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on item 2014, proposed ordinance number 18-004. Any comments related to this item for the public comment period? Any comments from those present here this evening? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 2038, public hearing to receive and review comments on the Community Development Block Grant budget, and there are no comments on file in the clerk's office.
Thank you. This time I'll open the public hearing on item 2038. It's to hear comments on the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG budget. Any comments from those present here this evening related to the item 2038? Any comments this evening? Seeing none, close the public hearing. I know there's an item later. I'll just make a comment that on the agenda related to that. There may be comments from the council or administration. If not, I'm sure they'll be in the public time as well. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under council action. Item number 2014, proposed ordinance 18-004, an ordinance to amend sections in chapter 699. Move to place proposed ordinance on the floor for its final reading.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we place ordinance 18-004 on the table for its final reading.
Second. There's a motion by Councilman Ekalani, supported by Councilman Lamore, on item 2014 be placed on the floor for its final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Ekwangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 18-004, an ordinance to amend sections 699-07 and 699-28 of chapter 699, Water of the Monroe Code, the City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Ekwangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 2035, Custer Airport Taxiway Hangar Area and Access Road Rehabilitation Project Takeover Agreement.
Thank you. Councilman Moore?
Your Honor, I motion that we move that the attached takeover agreement be approved and that the mayor be authorized to execute it on behalf of the city of Monroe.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Germaini, on item 2035, that the project takeover agreement be acted upon. I want to see if the city manager, if there's any comments, or
I might have the city attorney.
city attorney. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll give just a brief update. This is for the taxiway project. The contractor that was the general that was responsible for the project experienced what we believe some financial difficulties. We issued them a notice of default under their responsibilities. The project was, I think it's fair to say, substantially completed. However, there was some final work that was to be undertaken, which mainly deals with joint sealing. And so this is the bonding company for the contractor coming in and saying that they will take over the project. We are maintaining some final funds that they will need to be paid out as the project completes, and this allows them to complete the work and receive those funds. It's our understanding that they have paid out in excess of the amount that we are retaining to contractors that were unpaid on the project.
Let's see if there's any, I know there's a motion in a second, if there's any comments from council on this. I know that to approve. I'll just say I appreciate the follow-up by the administration, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Buds, and the city manager getting this resolved so we can move forward, so something isn't lingering when things need to be completed. With that, clerk, there's a motion in a second. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Ekwangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is item 2036, Professional Services Approval for Lazy Boy Sub-Area Plan.
So now I'll ask first for the administration, maybe a review before we get it on the table for a motion, because there may be more discussion here, but Mr. Bastu.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight we're requesting City Council to accept a professional service agreement with Netterfield and Inc. Out of Grand Rapids to conduct a sub-area plan for the former Lazy Boy site, earlier this year, back in March, we had some discussion about the benefits of it. It's a very complicated site and challenge from a redevelopment standpoint, and in order to expedite potentially in the future its redevelopment, a lot of cases you address a lot of the land use, some of the environmental conditions with it, and even from a transportation standpoint. So, having said that, the council authorized administration to go forward with soliciting proposals. We had a team involved with the review of those and interviews this past week, and again, recommending that Nettervelt out of Grand Rapids perform the work. It is within budget. I am sensitive to the fact that I occasionally hear that we do a lot of studies, but let me state that this property's been on the market for quite some time, and that the best that previously came forward was a non-conforming proposed use that probably would have employed 2 people on a 25-acre site on a very prominent location that has in excess of 32,000 cars going by it every day within a quarter mile of the busiest intersection. This is what communities do to encourage redevelopment, and we think it's in many ways an appropriate use for the city to take this type of action to go forward with this sub-area plan. We do want to get it redeveloped, and we think this is the best course of action.
Any questions for administration or any comments?
Your Honor,
I'll start this way and come back, John. All right, Councilman Eklund.
I'd like to make a motion that we move to accept the proposal from Netterfeld for the sub-area plan for Lazy Boy headquarters, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the necessary contracts.
Support.
There's a motion by Councilman Eklund, supported by Councilwoman Whitman, to on item 2036 to accept the proposal and to move forward on the sub-area plan. I believe there's a couple more comments, but at least we have the motion on the floor for discussion. Councilman Lamore.
Yes, question would be, this property is also part of Frenchtown Township, and I know that we've talked to them regarding this property as well. Have they entertained any thoughts of helping in this proposal?
Mr. Pestu?
For this one, we did not ask them for any financial assistance. We do have an application for a corridor study along Telegraph that would involve both Frenchtown Charter Township and Monroe Charter Township as well. And certainly, in talking with the supervisor, we've had discussions about participation in the local match associated with that. I will tell you, I have had some discussion while we had a couple of invitees that were not able to attend. They're appreciative and certainly eager to work with us. The city owns probably the most noticeable 16 acres of that 25-acre site. The township has 9 acres associated with it. A little bit of the parking lot to the north of the building, but most of it is to the east and the back end of that parcel. So I think we're forming a good working relationship with them, but we are comfortable going forward with this project with the funding as proposed.
Councilman? Other comments? Questions?
No, I just wish we would have had a little bit more acceptance from Frenchtown Township in this endeavor. And it is money crunching time for the city and our budget. Just like to see a little bit more input from Frenchtown in this, and like to see them do a little bit more financially in help with this, because it is a good portion of theirs. It's just about a third of the property, and they should be a part of that, and they should be a part of the planning and part of the financial acceptance of this as well.
Well, I certainly understand and appreciate that. I think, from our end of it, we were, and again, the city administration end of it, looking forward to getting this done get this initiated by the end of the fiscal year, where we have the funding in place. But I don't want to diminish the fact that Frenchtown Township is not, certainly my conversations with the supervisor, they're engaged in working with us. You may have to just take my good faith trust on that, but I do think that, there will be a partner in working with us going down the road.
Your Honor, have a comment on that. Every project of this type needs a champion in order to move it forward. And I certainly don't have a issue with the fact that the city of Monroe is the one that's stepping up and putting up the initial money in order to do the sub-area plan and create a vision for how this property is going to be redeveloped in the future. I think it'll end up benefiting both the city and Frenchtown Township, but I think more importantly, it benefits the city primarily because like as Mr. Pastou said, the most noticeable piece of the property is in the city of Monroe that's been currently for sale. So, we have to go, like I said, every project of this type needs a champion in order to move it forward. And I think at this point, I'm very comfortable with what we're doing.
Councilman, other questions or comments?
Yeah, just, I guess, tired of being the champion all the time, I guess, is my thought. Not for every project that we do.
Well,
And I understand what you're saying, John. I get that. It's just that I just think that we take on a lot of load for everything, and we really need to spread it out amongst the other people that are responsible for this region.
I guess I have a comment, and I just follow up because from in discussion, one of the items on the fact sheet that I think is important, and for those that may not have it in front of them, obviously it's available on the county or the city, website. We can make available if somebody wants it, but it talks about the approach, why being appropriate. There's a whole list of things that the administration has indicated that I think really is going to take our leadership, but we're going to need the support of others. In fact, one of the early on the discussions when we talk about the corridor in itself and how we talked with Tim Lake from the Business Development Corporation, Supervisor Barron from Monroe Township, and Supervisor McDivitt from Frenchtown Township on the corridor. But then the building was still there, and Lazy Boy had moved, and there was a couple inquiries. But as we worked through that process, they were non-conforming, and it would take a lot of changes. So we got to where we realized that, maybe it just has to be done in a fashion that does take the leadership of the city, and that's where this proposal comes from. There's many things listed on here about the building, about the Mason Run that runs underneath the building, the traffic signaling, the Huber Drive, the neighborhood that's next to it. And where we as a government may offer opportunity to have some of the research, that whether it be through SEMCOG, the state, or otherwise, that we're looking to possibilities how to get some of that support that might even be outside. And I guess also overall, Lazy Boy themselves, while they could simply just move forward, and they're not. They do have the best interest of the community in mind, knowing that they still have an association of the property. So I take that as a big plus as well. I think it's just going to take some hard efforts. I understand both positions of the council members that were stated. So there's much within the fact sheet that I hope others will have the opportunity to review as well, and why that this is being supported, or I should say proposed by the administration for the council to support. Other questions or comments? There is a motion and a second to accept and move forward on item 2036. Seeing other questions from council, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
No.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for item B, approval of payments, the amount should read $438,837.50, 438-83750.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any items council members wish to have pulled? Seeing none, are there any items on the consent agenda that those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda those present wish to have pulled? Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor,
Councilman Lamore.
I recommend that the bills be allowed and warrants drawn on the various accounts for their payment. The consent agenda.
And the remaining items as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Germaini, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, and recommendations carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
Well, council comments, Councilman Felder, but he'll get his chance at the next meeting. Unfortunately, he did have a complication and unable to attend. Councilwoman Whitman.
I think the only comment I have is congratulations to all the graduates. It's, reading on Facebook has been a lot of fun this week, so lots of parties and, you know, people being successful. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangelo.
A couple of comments. One, I just asked it's in regards to the proposal from Ms. Dykeman. Vince, had you had an opportunity to talk to Molly at DTE relative to what their thoughts are relative to the power outages?
I did not have a chance to talk with her. And typically, I've had some experience in the past where you may encounter a neighborhood that seems to have a number of outages more frequently and unexplained. And so, in doing so, I've had them actually, again, as alluded to earlier, that they do know what the outages are. They can look at and see when they occurred. And in the past, they've been able to, my experience is to remedy by putting a little, letting everybody know there's an issue there, letting the neighbors have some feedback on it. In the past, it's been a couple of items. One is tree maintenance on the distribution line, and in some cases, the lack of circuit breakers, where once the line goes down, a large swath of the neighborhood goes with it. So. But I will get in contact with her and try and resolve, move towards some resolution to this ongoing problem.
Would it be possible to have a report for the next council meeting?
Yeah, I can give you an update.
From DTE?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do for an update, yeah.
The other question I have is from us for the attorney. Regarding a proposal like this that would go on the ballot that involves the city mandating to a utility company certain actions, does this run counter or regarding the regulations that are imposed by the utility companies on the Michigan Public Service Commission? I mean, I guess the question I have is, how much latitude do we have to legislate what a utility company is going to do?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bunce?
Your Honor and Counsel, so that was my primary concern when I first started reading the information, is what latitude do we have? I'm not going to tell you I have that answer as I sit here today. I certainly can take a look at it, but I would indicate that I did just a brief search in the Public Service Commission rules. There are a number of rules for electric utilities that deal with their definition of when service becomes unreliable, so my concern would be trying to mandate a different definition than what the state has already set as far as the regulated definition of unreliable would be my first concern. There are several other concerns with the language that I would have, and I would certainly also direct Ms. Dykeman to the charter as far as procedure for getting a item on the ballot if she wanted to do so through petitions that were signed. There would obviously be some steps there as well. So I would always encourage somebody looking at that to seek legal counsel or to make sure they've got a firm understanding of the charter and the applicable rules in that regard. But I would say at first glance I have some concerns about conflict with the Public Service Commission rules, state law, and how much latitude the city would even have in that regard.
Well, I guess the reason why for the question is I wouldn't want a group of citizens to spend a lot of their time on securing petitions when there would not be there's no end game. I mean, where the Public Service Commission would basically preempt that.
I agree, and I wouldn't want to reach a conclusion today. I want to do some looking at that, but my initial gut reaction is the same, I think, as the council members, that likely this would be something that would be preempted and would be governed solely by the Public Service Commission, and they would take the position under state law that any ordinance would be ineffective in that regard.
Okay, so can I ask then, Mr. Pastu is going to be checking with DTE regarding what their update is, why we've had these 3 power outages. And then for the next council meeting, you could also give us an update on what your opinion is relative to, is this a go or a no-go?
I'd be happy to do so.
Okay. Well, the last comment I have, Your Honor, is more of a general comment, is during the discussions regarding the Lazy Boy proposal, I was one of the folks that sat in on the review team for the proposal and the interviews, and during those conversations with supervisor from Frenchtown, he had indicated and that, you know, they've got concerns too relative to what's going to happen with the Monroe Mall in closing. So they may be faced as a township with kind of a larger version of Lazy Boy that we have in the city of Monroe relative to how to reutilize or repurpose a closed mall facility. My other concern is right across the street from the former Lazy Boy is another shopping center where they have the Big Lots, and that facility it has a revolving door for tenants. And these shopping centers too are under a lot of distress because people are primarily buying their retail items online, and a lot of the brick and mortar stores are closing because they just can't compete. So I think it's incumbent upon an organization like the City of Monroe to take a lead role on the redevelopment and repurposing of these properties. $50,000 that we spent today could leverage a 20, a 50, or $150 million project on that property, which would bring significant tax returns to this community. So sometimes, you know, the old adage, you have to spend a buck to make a buck. This is a classic example. We can sit there and let that piece of property flounder. We can have people come before the Planning Commission and ask to put storage facilities on it and create 2 jobs, or the city can take a lead role on redeveloping it, and then at a later time bring Frenchtown in as a partner on the redevelopment. So I just, you know, these type of studies lately are showing up on Facebook, and people are saying, oh, the City of Monroe is doing a study. Well, the City of Monroe has to look at itself and what we're going to be in the future, because we all know that DTE is going to decommission. And the only way to continue having good city services is to have a good, stable tax base. And that's going to be encouraging more commercial development and mixed-use development. And we saw it with the downtown master plan. They identified 5 or 6 projects just in the downtown for mixed-use developments. And they said we have the market for it. So we have to put ourselves in the position of being a public developer in order to make these projects work for the community, or else they're not going to happen. So that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Viney.
Yes, Your Honor. I want to thank Mrs. Dykeman for her presentation to the council. We have a lot of blackouts in our area. I also live on the east side, as far east as you can go in the Orchard neighborhood. DTE recently changed the transformers, and we have a lot less outages. But when I called, they said it was excessive electrical demand, increased electrical demand, something I had never heard of. And that's the first thing I thought about was the California brownouts. And are we going to this? And some other things I won't say. But I also want to apologize that you had the bad experience with the officer. And I had a question since the chief is here. Are there, if I may ask, are there any policies and procedures for when a blackout occurs? Because we happen to have a break-in in our neighborhood during the time that the blackout was, because I assume that the persons or person who committed the crime knew that that senior citizen would be out of the home because there was no power in the house.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and Council, Charles McCormick, Chief of Police. Certainly, like you said, if we would want to know those things if we have a power outage in an area. I was aware, like I know Darlene said, there's been 4 of recent in that area. Banks and all that, always we do get notifications, and we do what we can to add our resources into that area during those times for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. This one seems like it's a smaller geographical area. If the officers just aren't aware of it, or we're not notified, certainly a conversation I could have with the director of dispatch when if they're receiving calls of a power outage in an area, that they just it's a simple radio transmission to let us know, and then we can adjust our resources accordingly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
And then,
Councilwoman?
Your Honor, one more thing. We've been talking about the labor park development, and I know we had some conversations about a splash pad being added at the labor park. I don't know if anybody from Parks and Rec is here, but I didn't notice that it was necessarily drawn into the pre-design stage, and I was wondering.
Maybe Mr. Pastu can update where we're at with that. I know we're in some planning and where it's going to go.
Yeah, we're in very early in the initial phases for planning associated with the park project itself. And when the park plans were developed, I guess last year, I don't recall there being anything in there with splash pad. If anything, I think it was programmed for St. Mary's Park, is my recollection. So, there's a desire on the part of council to revisit that. Now would be as good a time as any to have that dialogue, because we're not that far into the planning for the project to have that consideration, if that's something the council would like to discuss further.
Your Honor, well, I think with that area being developed, I call it, in my mind, it's going to be like a town center or green space type area. Hopefully like a smaller version of a campus marshes or something like that, with all the trees, the picnic areas and everything. And I think the splash pad would fit perfectly for the children there. We don't have any public swimming pools or facilities like that. I think it'd be good at St. Mary's as well, but St. Mary's is considerably closer to the Y, which has pool facilities, and I think something like that would be great at Labor Park, especially with the new development that's going on all around the center.
I'll make other comments from council since we're on that topic rather than waiting and going back and forth. I recall as we looked through the Parks and Recs, the various plans at the 6 parks that were identified, Labor Park, I thought it was there, but it was actually a playground when I looked at some children's age group of play equipment. And I think as we talked this through, and then I went back and looked at some of the comments that were received, I know by myself, I thought a splash pad or some form of water activity at the Labor Park in association with the ALCC, the number of students there, the opportunities are maybe lessened for some of our youth in the neighborhood to whether get to the Y or get to water. It's an immensity I think that would add to that park if developed correctly. So I am supportive of at least looking at having that included, at least also when we talk about the cost. That's where we're at and where that fits with the overall development of Labor Park. I think it's a good idea. I know there were some comments that supported that, along with other things, but I think it's at least an immensity, I think, at that park that would make sense to me and something provided into the neighborhood that doesn't have those opportunities. But I'll look at other comments from the council as well. There's other thoughts on...
I don't have a problem to take a look at the planning for it.
Yeah. I just think, and I know Councilwoman Vine and I had talked about it, and I kind of misread it. I thought that's what it was. When I looked closer, it was actually a playground equipment item, and I thought, well, I know I made comments to that. I thought it was something that should be considered. St. Mary's, it says a little different type of design. It's a much larger project. It's not one of them we're going to do first. It might be something we look at as we get down the road, but I think it's really would be a great add to that park, and hope the administration will listen. The council seems to be at least supportive of looking at that and with where that might fall within the plans and the costs. So maybe that report back on that, Councilman, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
I'll have it on a future work session
great.
fairly soon, actually.
Very good.
Too far down the road.
Thank you. Councilwoman? Another?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Germaini?
I'm excited that the weather is finally warm and everyone get out and enjoy all the activities we have going on in our city. A lot going on this summer. Enjoy. I will. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Moore.
Yes, Your Honor, quite a few comments actually. I'd like to first congratulate all of our graduates and remind them to be careful during this time of year, driving, etc. Congrats to all of the sports teams in the region as well that have been very successful. We have a lot of successful sports teams in this region. I want to make sure that they're congratulated for their efforts as well. Cultivate Community, Saturday, June 16th. Please plan on showing up at Oaks of Righteousness, I believe, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I believe. I believe they are serving breakfast that morning for anybody that wishes to work or sign up with the team. It is a very worthy cause and it looks to make the Orchard East area a much more palatable place to reside as well as drive through. Update, not an update, but I'd like to see our traffic committee consider one-side versus two-side parking on Godfrey's, St. Mary, and Borges, those streets, with the possibility of passing. I've heard from the mayor that he would like to send out a petition from the neighbors to see if they're willing to do such a thing. And I think that they would like our attorney to draw up a petition for the neighbors to accept parking or reject parking on one side versus two sides. Regarding the DTE outages, Mrs. Dykeman brought up great concern of a lot of our constituents. Reminder to her that my business resides in the area that's been blacked out 4 times. We've lost one computer. We've had some problems with some of our equipment as well. Still having a problem with another piece of equipment down there from that outage. So yes, it is a concern. I'm disappointed that the fix has not been found. Obviously, there is a fix there. I don't seriously believe that that is a overdraw on the power. That is what they have been stating on a repeated programming on their lines. I have tried several times to get in contact with somebody from DTE. No success whatsoever. Times spending 30, 45 minutes during the day, during regular hours, after hours, anytime, no response at all. So I'd like to get a response from them as you requested from our city manager. That'd be very nice to hear from them. But yes, it does go around, and I've heard many complaints from several of our constituents, not only myself, but in the area as well. So it is a concern, and as we go further into the year, if they can't get that problem solved, there has to be a fix, either for us or something, because we can't accept having to reset equipment constantly and replacing equipment constantly. So I am with you on that. I agree 100%. Is that the resolution for it? I'm not exactly sure, but it's something we need to look into. And my final comment regarding the Lazy Boy area, I would like a commitment from all the stakeholders starting now and down the road. So I don't want to be on the hook for everything that they're looking for. I want people that are involved with this in the region to take care of everything, not just us. So I'd like to see a commitment from everybody on that. And that's it.
Thank you. I have a few comments myself. I'll start by earlier, as we have our work sessions at 6 o'clock. Prior to our council meeting, there was a couple items that I just wanted to review. One item was on the agenda as well, but the first is there was a presentation on the downtown master plan review. There's many pages of that. It was a quick 40-minute review, but it went right through all the input that was received and some of the recommendations, whether it's about one-ways and two-way streets, parking, development, infill, Monroe Street, and what that configuration should be. So I'm bringing it up now for those that weren't at the work session or may not know that while our council meetings are taped and it can be watched through Impact, so are the work sessions. So I'd recommend that those that are watching this or that are here, go back and look at the work session as well and really get a feel for the downtown master plan presentation, because that will be coming up through this summer. There's a timeline on that. There'll be public input opportunities, there'll be public meetings, and I want to make sure that everybody understands what's proposed rather than just showing up when they see it on the agenda and come give the thoughts that when the plan might answer some of those questions that they have. It'll be an opportunity for some dialogue versus just questions without knowing what the plan really says. The other was the Community Development Block Grants budget, which was at the work session review. What are those costs were? There's some discussions on items that might be new, but also ideas and thoughts of where some of that expenditure should go. It was on our consent agenda this evening, but it comes back at our next meeting at the public meeting. So there's an opportunity for to again hear that in the work session or look at the item that was on tonight's agenda, setting the public hearing for the next meeting. So there's an opportunity to come back and have comments then. A couple activity items I want to talk about. The Recreation Department, of course, has concerts in the park at St. Mary's Park. It's every Thursday evening through July 26th. They've had a couple already, and the opportunity at St. Mary's Park, it begins at 7 p.m. and goes to about 8:30. So every Thursday evening until July 26th. Many opportunities, a variety of different music. Stop by whether it's for a few minutes or the entire hour and a half. This Saturday, June 9th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the Open Air Market and Car Show in downtown Monroe. So some of the streets will be closed for that activity. There'll be vendors and activities that are going on. Please come downtown on the 9th to see those activities. Cultivate Community, Councilman Lamore mentioned. I won't say much more than that other than they are getting teams of people that can help not only contribute to the work and efforts that are being done, but also putting teams together in a group activity, whether it be through business or just residents that want to help out and selecting locations that are there. It goes until 3 p.m. and the final program will be about 3 p.m. at the ALCC. But it does start in the morning at 8 o'clock with a breakfast, getting organized, doing the activities at the homes that are there. And those can be found on the website or on Facebook at the Cultivate Community Monroe. And there's contact numbers easily to locate. So a couple final comments I have. And we talked about labor parts, so I won't mention that again. But the DTE. So I appreciate the comments that were made tonight. We'll make sure those city administration, Vince Pastu and I have chatted about this, and we are going to have having contact with DTE. So it's not just the city, the county themselves, and the county administrator, Mike Bosonic, has had equal concerns because of the impacts it's had on the county buildings as well. And also when you talk about the public safety building and jail and other things, and of course generators and the time, not just the loss of power, but the time in which it's coming back on. So we will be taking the information that was given tonight to make sure we share it. As Vince and I have spoken, and I know council members have spoken with Vince as well in the past week, as we move forward in our contacts with DTE. And I think by Councilman Michelangelo's comments, looking to next meeting coming back, both from administration comments and as well as Mr. Buds, and we'll see if DT would be willing to come and make a presentation that was asked, or at least provide some information that we can provide to the residents as well, or make it available where they can actually get the answers that have been asked for this evening. I think that's all that I have. Clerk Treasurer LaVoy.
The only announcement I have this evening is that the tax bills are out, and if someone hasn't received their bill as of yet, you should contact the treasurer's office so that we can email it to you or get one in the mail to you. But for the most part, we haven't had any major issues with that, but we have had one or two people who have yet to receive it, and it's probably a mail issue. And I am working with the Postal Service to continue not just on the treasurer's side, but on the clerk's side with the elections to continue to work at improving service. So that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu, other
nothing.
comments?
Nope.
Very well. With that, before we get to the final item, citizens' comments, other citizens' comments this evening? Any further comments from those present here this evening? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go into closed executive session for collective bargaining, city attorney quarterly update, and attorney-client privilege communication.
Motion by Councilman Michelangelo, restored by Councilwoman Whitman to go into closed executive session for the reasons stated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Michaelangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Lamore? Sorry. Mayor Clark?
Yes.